Cao Cao, Life Like Fire. Part 1. The Man Who Rose from Chaos. The world was falling apart. The Han Dynasty, once glorious and powerful, was crumbling like a dying fire. Corruption spread through the palace. Warlords fought like beasts. And the people, they were starving, crying, forgotten. But in the middle of that storm, a man stood up and smiled. If the world is in chaos, let me be the chaos itself. His name was Cao Cao. He wasn't born noble. He wasn't the son of a famous general. But he was different. From a young age, he read books not for wisdom, but to win. He didn't care about rules. He didn't care about honor. All he cared about was one thing. How do I survive and how do I win? When the Yellow Turban Rebellion exploded, Cao Cao didn't hesitate. He raised a small army and charged into battle. But he didn't just fight with swords. He fought with fear, with strategy, with his mind. While others shouted justice for the people, he whispered, "Justice doesn't matter if you lose." He took lands. He took people's loyalty. And sometimes he took their lives. Many called him a villain, a snake, a tyrant. But he smiled again and said, "Better to be a real villain than a fake hero." Cao Cao knew, in a world on fire, only those who burn brighter can survive. And that's how it began. The rise of the most feared, most brilliant, most controversial man in the Three Kingdoms. Part 2, A Blade Called Ambition. The battlefield was quiet. Too quiet. Cao Cao stood in front of the palace, his sword dripping with blood. Not of an enemy, but of a friend. He had been sent to protect the emperor, but what he saw inside the court was rot. Ministers drunk on power, guards abusing the weak, laughter echoing over cries. This isn't a palace. It's a prison of lies. That night he made a choice, to kill the prime minister and seize power. And he did, without warning, without regret. Blood painted the floor. Cao Cao walked through it like it was rain. The emperor trembled, but Cao Cao only bowed. "Your Majesty, I will protect you, even if I must become a devil to do it." From that moment on, he was no longer a warlord. He was a shadow behind the throne, the hand that moved the emperor, the master of silent power. He built alliances, crushed rebellions, and rewrote the rules of war. But with power came enemies. Liu Bei, Sun Quan, even his own generals whispered behind his back. He doesn't want peace. He wants everything. And maybe they were right, because one night, as he stared at the map of China, Cao Cao whispered, "I don't just want to survive anymore. I want everything under heaven." That's when he became unstoppable, because his ambition wasn't just a dream. It was a blade, cold, sharp, and aimed at the heart of the world. Part 3, Between Loyalty and Betrayal. The war drums thundered, but Cao Cao's heart was heavier than any battlefield. His generals were warriors, loyal to the death. But loyalty is fragile, especially when ambition is a fire burning within. Among them was Guan Yu and Zhang Fei, fierce warriors, loyal to Liu Bei, Cao Cao's rival. But Cao Cao was not above using friendship as a weapon. He invited them into his camp under the guise of peace. He treated them with respect, even friendship. But behind the smiles, he was always calculating. "Trust is a currency I cannot afford to spend freely," he muttered one night. When the moment came, he betrayed his own promises. He captured Guan Yu, the mighty warrior, knowing it would shatter Liu Bei's spirit. Yet betrayal weighed on him. At night, the faces of those he betrayed haunted him. Are they enemies or reflections of my own soul? His own men grew wary. Whispers spread. Cao Cao is a snake, a man who kills friends and foes alike. But he ignored the warnings, because to survive, he knew, you must be willing to lose parts of yourself. In his solitude, Cao Cao wrote, "A king's heart is a lonely battlefield. Friends turn to shadows, and loyalty is a blade that cuts both ways." And so the man who sought to unite the world was slowly losing the world within. Part 4, The Final Flame, Legacy of a Legend. The years had worn on Cao Cao. His body was frail, but his spirit still burned bright. The empire he dreamed of was still a dream. Fractured lands, endless battles. But Cao Cao no longer feared death. He welcomed it like an old friend. One night, he wrote his final poem. The wind howls across the northern plains. The river flows without end. I have lived a life of fire and shadow, yet my name will outlast the stars. His generals gathered around him, tears and respect in their eyes. Remember, he was more than a tyrant, one whispered. He was a man who dared to rewrite history. When Cao Cao passed, the world paused. No grand funeral, no weeping crowds, just silence. But the wind carried his name. Through villages, through palaces, Cao Cao, a man who burned too brightly, who loved power more than peace, who was hated and feared, but never forgotten. His legacy was not in kindness or mercy. It was in the fire he sparked in history. And so the flame of Cao Cao's life still lights the way for those who dare to dream. The end. Please subscribe and like notification. Meet more people from the Three Kingdoms.